Hello. How's everybody doing? That's it? Really? You seem like you're terrible. You all right? Is everyone okay? All right, we'll see how it goes for the rest of the night. I'm glad you're here. Thank you for being here. My name is Aidan Flax-Clark. I work at this library. I'm part of the team that brings you live from NYPL, so thank you again for being here. Thank you to everyone who's watching online. I'm not sure which camera I'm looking at, so hopefully I'm looking at you. Thank you. It's amazing whether you came here in person or you're watching online, just so great that you joined us. And we are here to talk about an absolutely wild novel, the most recent by tonight's guest, Álvaro Enrigue. How many people have had a chance to read it already? Anybody? It's crazy, right? I loved it. I don't want to spoil anything, but for a book set in one day in one location, it really goes some places. And among the many things I learned in it is that tomatoes can be hallucinogens, and I wish I was 16 because then I would experiment with that. In addition to many other accolades, Álvaro was a fellow here at the Cullman Center, we think about 10 years ago, where I believe he worked on one of his previous novels, Sudden Death. Hopefully some of you may have read that in the past, yeah? Funny side note about that book, I was talking to someone who used to work in our rare books reading room last week, and maybe you're here, Meredith, but she told me that someone came into the room and requested to see the tennis balls made of Anne Boleyn's hair, and was super, super annoyed when they turned out not to be real, right? Which I just told Álvaro, and he was pretty excited to hear about, so. But I think it speaks to his unique ability to blend history and invention together into this kind of devilish whole where when the completely absurd, collides with the very, very real, you really can't tell where reality begins and ends. And I think it's a testament to his incredible imagination and the meticulous research that he does for his books. And, we actually had wanted to do a collections display to kind of show some of the research you might be able to do for this book, which unfortunately, because of COVID and a couple of other things, we weren't able to do. So if you saw that on the event listing and you were wondering where it is, my apologies. But, we have some incredible materials related to people and places here in the library. We have the first Latin translation of Hernán Cortés's second letter to Charles V, which is an account of his meeting with Emperor Moctezuma, and also has the first published plan for the city of Tenochtitlan, which was published in 1524. We have the first edition of the Bartolomé de las Casas book, which in English is known as a short account of the destruction of the Indies, which was published in 1552. It's a denunciation of the devastating effects of colonialism, and a lot more. So you would have loved it. But you could come back and use it if your research falls into these areas. Those items and everything else we have here are freely available with your library card. And I want to thank our curator for Latin American, Iberian, and Latino Studies, Paloma Celis Carbajal, for calling out these items and also for working on the collections display that would have been. But if you're doing research in any of these areas, I really encourage you to reach out to Paloma because she's amazing and our collections are incredible and you won't be sorry. I also really want to thank the brilliant writer Marie Arana for being here tonight to conduct this conversation. It's an honor and a delight to have her here. She has her own new book coming out on February 20th called Latino Land, so keep your eyes peeled for that. It looks like it's going to be fantastic. Her bio, Alvaro's bio are in your printed programs or on the event listing if you're watching online. And if you haven't picked up Álvaro's book, it's available for sale outside. I believe he'll be signing it after the talk. So if you have one already, buy one for someone you know. And if you don't have one yet, please, you're going to be really happy. So pick it up. All the proceeds go to the New York Public Library. Last thing I want to tell you before bringing Álvaro Enrigue out is that you hopefully got some note cards when you walked in. Those are for asking questions. Some of my friends will be collecting them during the conversation, so please write your questions down. If you could, write them in the form of questions. We appreciate that. And if you're watching online, you can put your questions in the chat on YouTube or email publicprograms@nypl.org. We'll get them any which way, and we'll bring them up to the folks to talk about at the end. All right. Thank you again for being here. Let's give it up for tonight's guest.
Good evening. Buenas noches a todos. It's such a pleasure to see a full crowd here. Thank you for coming, turning out for Álvaro, who is I would say, one of the most extraordinary living writers today. His work is amazing. He has far more books out there in Spanish than we have of him in English, and I hope that gets corrected soon. He is, I think, very special to me for so many reasons, because of his books, because of his work, because of his originality, which is rare and quirky and wonderful and funny, but also because he's Mexican and because I'm Peruvian. And I think there's a magic between us, only because these two extraordinary empires that had so many similarities, but were 3,000 miles apart. Fascinating in that. And also because of the conquest, which was literally copied by Pizarro of Cortés. He studied Cortés's conquest of Mexico and did the same thing in the land where I'm from. So there are so many connections, so many things that we can talk about. This book is fantastic. It's wonderful. A lot of it, I think, was researched and written here. So my first question for you, Álvaro, is tell us a little bit about your relationship to this library where we're sitting right now.
Well, first, thanks, everybody. It's really difficult to be Mexican or Peruvian.
Yeah,
It's
it's hard. It's hard.
It's so difficult.
Yeah.
Your conscience of all history on your shoulders all the time. Yeah. And that relates somehow to your question. I was telling Marie before coming in that I usually come to look for very specific things that I will not find in other place. So I come to the public library. There was this like heavenly year, of course, in which I was in the Kuhlman. When you're in the Kuhlman Center, you sit down in your desk and you desire a book. And it appears.
And it appears.
And they are paying you for reading it. It's just amazing. I used to take the metro that I took because I still live in the same neighborhood. I used to take the D train singing The Only Living Boy in New York. Because that was that year. I didn't have anything to do except reading and writing. And I will be always thankful for that. But I was telling that I usually come to look for some very specific book or document that is inaccessible anywhere else. And then I stay returning and returning and returning because you can go as deep as you want, not only physically. The first day, the day in which you are like trained to attend to be a fellow in the Kuhlman Center, they give you a tour. First you go through security, and they check that you're not a villain, and they give you this thing that is really yellow, but is metaphorically gold. That means that you can enter wherever you want in the library. It's just, you can come in a Sunday and you can park your bike wherever you want and just go in. And in that first day, they take you to the stacks, that's the word? Yes, to the stacks. That is, you take this elevator and you go down and down and down. And there are all these books. And it's just the most wonderful thing around. No, the stacks go all over Bryant Park. And it's the library and Bryant Park. And I don't remember how many floors drop, but it's just an amazing experience. It's like, ooh, returning to the womb. This is it. I will never leave.
But you really savor the research, don't you? And it shows. You really, because it's really profound and very deep, the way that you go into the history in your books. But you could only play with history in the way that you do if you really know it. And I think you really savor the research. I do. That's my favorite part of writing, is the research.
What is, I listened long ago, I will not say how long because it would be rude, but when we were both very young writers, I hear Carmen Boullosa said, she was launching in the launch of the complete novels of Álvaro Mutis, who is somehow unfairly forgotten right now, but it doesn't matter. So she was speaking to Mutis, and she said, well, writing, publishing is the winter, and she was right. Writing is the fall, but the spring and the summer is reading. And I think that she was absolutely right. No? The real pleasure, the place to play, really, is not the actual writing, but when you are putting together ideas, just reading.
Yeah. I've heard you say, Alvaro, that reading is really a creative act, that you are as much, and you write really for the creative reader, because you want those spaces that you leave free for them to enter with their own imaginations.
The bad thing is that there are elections this year, and it sounds populist. What I will say sounds like super populist, but it's not. It's not something I truly believe. I think that the artist is the reader. I think that the person that produces the miracle of literature is the reader and not the writer. You know, the writer, you know perfectly. You know, when the books one thinks that will write, and the books that come out are like the grape and the pasita. I don't know the word for that. So they are always shorter, smaller, the efficient, and it's the readers who made them like work and appear. I think that is the miraculous thing of literature. No?
It is miraculous.
There is nothing and there is something.
Yeah.
No? It's something appears and it stays with you forever. No? If you like the book, if it's good, whatever the reason. But yeah, I still think so.
I love that. I love that image. And
it's a self-protective belief also. No, if you didn't like it, you're a bad artist.
But it's but it's lovely. I really like that concept. I don't think that you have that concept in film. You know, I have a friend, Alice McDermott, who said that when they made a film of her book, they actually filled the drawers that were never going to be opened with things that would be there if you were opening them, and that character would see and would own. And I thought, oh my goodness, and I thought of you when I heard of that, because you had said that, you know, you need that space to imagine what might be in that drawer.
You need to know how a Roman soldier tied a sandal before writing about the Roman Empire, no? Just in case you need it. That's all. No? Just in case someone needs to tie the shoe. No?
Yes. So, yes.
But it's mainly an egoist thing. No? It's just the pleasure of researching. More in a place like this one, no? In which you can just keep going and going forever, and it never ends.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit, if you would, Alvaro, about how you got into this business of writing. I know that you began as a journalism student, if I'm correct, yeah?
Yeah, but
you began as a critic, really.
I began as a critic, yeah. Those are the tribulations of the Mexican middle class. No, it's sorry, the moment of confessions has arrived. No, I was not admitted in the National University of Mexico. I was not a very good student, so when I had to rise to the occasion, I didn't at all, and so I had to be educated by the Jesuits, which was not bad. No? I worked with them, and I ended up being Jesuitophilic, which doesn't make me very popular. But nevertheless, when the news arrived home, my parents were like, "Okay, we're gonna pay for this. Well, you will need to get a fellowship, you will need to be a better student. And if we are going to pay for this, that thingy of studying literature is like, so you need to do something more practical." So I ended up in journalism school, you know. But the pulsion for writing was always there. You know? I began to write professionally as a critic when I was 20. Now that is unthinkable. No? Now that it would be. When I was 19, I began to write reviews in a newspaper before I knew that what I was writing was a review. And I would read books, and if I liked them, I would say things that I liked about them. And then I began to go to the bars and the coffee shops in which the writers got together, and I learned that was a review, una reseña. So it was like that, and then when now it would be unthinkable, but I was 20 when I received the call, not divine, but almost, that was the call of Octavio Pass. No? It was like, we have read you in the magazine, and we want to align you.
Octavio Pass, of all people.
The magazine was Vuelta, no? Which was maybe the last great Latin
Everybody
American.
Wrote for
everybody
Vuelta.
wrote for them, and the standard of that magazine, no? From time to
Vargas
time.
Llosa, Carlos Fuentes, Octavio Paz.
Yes, but half of the liberals of Central Europe, no, that had escaped. Condera used to write there when he was young. It's for a while I worked in the archive of Vuelta, so I could tell very scary stories about the amount of people that grew there. No, it was amazing.
And you were just a kid at that
I was
point,
just a kid. I was just a kid. One never knows how it's perceived. No?
Yeah.
And when I were 20, I felt exactly the same that I feel now. Super old, no? Close to termination. No? I was not conscious that I obviously, no? 20 years is a lot if you are 20 years. No? So the other day, we were in this dinner with friends in Mexico City, and someone said, no, when you began to write in Vuelta, it was like, why they are bringing this child to write? No? What is going on? No? And of course, I thought that I was a very serious critic. But there were, the first review I wrote was Aurelio. I discussed it with Aurelio Asian, who was the publisher, no, the main editor of the magazine, secretario de redacción was the post. And I remember telling Aurelio, there is this incredibly promising young writer from Spain named Enrique Villamatas. So it's so long ago that Enrique was like the new star of Spanish literature, no? And many other things. No? So
what a great beginning.
History.
Yes. So, but your first book
But the emotion never changed. Sorry, I'm interrupting you. But the emotion never changes.
Yeah.
No? I remember seeing my name in the very peculiar typography of Vuelta. No? And it was like, oh my God. It's my name in the typography of Vuelta. And 3 weeks ago happened to me when the New York Review of Books arrived to my house, and there was an article there. No? It was the same. It was. It's the typography of the New York Review of Books.
Yeah.
I wish my grandfather was alive.
Yeah. No, there is that. I remember when I had my first front page article in the Washington Post, and my father said, "Oh my God, the Pope is reading this." You know, it's the most important thing that he could think of.
They were speaking badly about the Pope.
Yeah. So, but that was quite an experience, Vuelta, my goodness. And so, what did you learn from Octavio Pass?
No, I was terrified of Octavio Pass. I never talked to him. And now I hit my head against the wall because he was a very accessible man. No, I would just, I was...
tiptoeing around the halls. Yeah, I can see.
I wear a leather jacket. I have the hair like this. I was a young rock and roll kid from Mexico City, so I was not presentable. So I would like comb, etc. Put a shirt, but I was too insecure and too scared of his figure. No? So I would like circulate in the magazine, and wherever Octavio Pass was there, it would be like and run. I don't know. It was terrifying for me, but that's my problem, not his problem.
Yeah.
No? Yeah, yes.
But you were, I mean, I think you...
I learned what everybody learns as a reader. No?
Absolutely, absolutely.
The best prose in a lot of time.
Extraordinary,
no? Extraordinary prose.
yeah. So when you wrote La muerte de un instalador, you were only, or when you published it, you were only 27. So you must have known very early on that this was your métier, your future.
I wanted to be a writer. I always wanted...
But books, as opposed to criticism.
Of everything. No? I didn't have that clarity. No? I think no one knows today, after, I don't know, 1 meter of novels, I still feel that I will never finish the next one. I still feel that I will never begin it. Forget about finishing it.
That
no? One relearns all the time, and it's always demanding. But I always had the pulsion of writing, and I don't have idea where it comes from, why. I was lucky enough to begin so young. Because when you're young, you are irresponsible. No? So I would just like say things about writers and put them there, and they would be published. The truth is that I owe my career as a fiction writer to the disastrous presidency of Carlos Salinas de Gortari, because I had, again, the tribulations of the Latin American middle class. No, I used to work in a radio station, and I wrote 5 programs. I wrote the article for the newspaper, the article for Vuelta, the article for Viceversa, a younger magazine. I was always up to here with work, and in the crisis of '94. No, I think it was now or 96. I don't remember. Someone remembers? It was 94.
Yeah,
no?
yeah.
Yes, there were 25 chicken, and the next day there was none. And that's how it was. I began to lose jobs. You know, this radio program disappeared. This one, and I kept luckily the one that paid better. That was a science program that I used to love to write. So with that, the family could not float or survive, and that let me sit down and say, well, if I don't write a novel now, when? Miquel was about to be born, and I didn't have money for the expenses. So I was like trying to write this novel, and Joaquín Mortiz, which was a legendary, I was very lucky, I was incredibly lucky, a legendary publishing house. Now everybody had been in Joaquín Mortiz, from Fuentes to Pitol to Elizondo, no Pitol never, but Elizondo, Margot Glantz, all like the idols of, yes. So José Agustín, who just recently died and was like my insignia writer when I was young. So they opened a contest because there was no money at all, so they could not publish young people. So they opened a contest to publish one novel of a new writer, and they began the Joaquín Mortiz Prize, and the amount of money of the prize equaled the amount of the el parto, how you say that, the birth ceremony that happens in a hospital. The delivery, it was the same, like the price tag, literary price. So I just ran to finish the novel and send it. And my editor then, who now is the boss of Penguin Random House, Mexico, Andrés Ramírez, we became friends after he published the book. He always said that I had won the prize because my novel arrived so late that it was the one in the top of the pile. The judges just read the first one, and it was, okay, aguarde. That's it. Because I dropped it like 10 minutes before. the end of the contest and the delivery of the baby. No, it was everything very agitated as everything in my life.
Oh, that's wonderful. That is wonderful. So, and now I want to plunge into this book because it's really a remarkable book. It is so original, so eccentric, so, I mean, when you say that the reader is the artist in the process, you make the reader sit up and notice not only himself or herself, because suddenly, I mean, you insert things that are so surprising, and that a reader really has to struggle with to understand why you put that there. I don't want to expose these wonderful surprises, but there are surprises in this book
in exchange for that,
yeah.
The reader gets to be a character.
Yes. Yes.
Everybody is in the book. But
yes.
You have to read it. Consider that I have 4
yes.
children.
You're right.
It's a good idea to buy it.
And you have to be able to get the jokes, which makes you feel very much a participant in the book.
That is a very nice thing to say. I don't think that it's eccentric at all. I think that it's a very commercial. No?
I like eccentricities.
No, I don't know. No, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
No, and I am very thankful for what you say. But one can only write one book when he's writing it. No, but this again, it's a mysterious thing. No,
Yeah.
I really don't have idea of where the books come. Except nicotine,
Yeah, mushrooms.
which
maybe.
is an important one in some cases. In this case, mushrooms, past experiences. But I really don't know where they come from and how you organize it. No, in this case there was a very clear passion for the subject. No, I've been like obsessed with it since I was a child.
The Cortés Moctezuma.
No, with the idea of the floating city of Tenochtitlan.
Oh, yes.
That the obsession with the encounter came from a review. I never. So I always saw the. How can I say? When I read what the Spaniards said about what happened in that first day and how Moctezuma surrendered the kingdom, etc., it was clear for me that it was a public relations operation.
Yes.
No, you don't have to be a genius. No? It's
course,
very clear that they are just like saving face for the future, and that whatever happened was much more weird and turbulent, and there are many mysteries still associated to that. I began to put attention to that problem reading this fantastic book of Matthew Reston. That
yes.
is when Moctezuma found Cortés or talked to
Yes.
Cortés. That is an extraordinary book. I was always like I had a conventional idea of what had happened in that moment, and it was reading that book that I reviewed, by the way, also, that my point of view completely changed, and it was like, wait.
Like an epiphany,
this was
yes.
not, what they are telling is impossible, no? So there must be another story to be told, and that is the place of the novelist, no?
Absolutely.
I don't know if common sense, because I don't think that I am a person with common sense, but that you can propose a theory about things that an historian can't. No? So that was like the switch, and more than anything, I began to put attention to that encounter in that moment. But long before that, I had been in love with the idea of Tenochtitlan, with this tremendous nostalgia of the city that was destroyed, that never came to be, and I always think about it as when when you're a child and you see the stars, and you can spend the whole night trying to see, I don't know, a UFO, a comet, whatever happens, and you're like wondering about it. I have had that same feeling all my life about Tenochtitlan, how it looks, how it looked, how it worked, because it's still such a mystery, such a fragile, a floating city.
Yes,
And at the same time, of course, the question that torments all Mexicans and Peruvians, that is how come that it was lost so easily.
Yes, yes, of course.
Again, that's propaganda.
It's total propaganda.
It didn't come out that easily. It's not true that it was 300 Spaniards. All of that are lies, but it's been I don't know, a lifetime love. I'm from, well, I was not born in Mexico City. I was born in Guadalajara. But I don't have memories of Guadalajara. I arrived when I was like 3 weeks to Mexico City. And I left, I don't know, when I was 20-something, maybe 30. And I always take it here with me.
I have the same obsession. And perhaps it is because we're Mexican and Peruvian. But, there is that extraordinary moment. You read about it, and you're absolutely right. You read Cortés's letters to King Charles, and you say, it is pure propaganda. You read the account of Bernal Diaz, and there is that ridiculous idea that how could an empire be so weak and so fragile, and of course there is a long explanation for it. I mean, Cortés had legions of colluders who were very angry at what was going on in Tenochtitlan, and became his armies.
In the second letter, that is a little bit more honest than the first one, he says that his troops are, I cannot even say it in English, 150,000, 150,000.
Yeah.
And Tenochtitlan had like 40,000 warriors. It was the army of the Triple Alliance was bigger, but everybody turned their back to Moctezuma. Maybe deservedly. He surely did things that his allies didn't like. And we know about a few of them, and they were important. But yes, it was, and it was a very long war. And there is don't let me go there, because then I will not be able to stop talking. But there is the 8 months that the Spaniards stay in Mexico City, and no one knows what happens. There are like, I think it's 5, maybe 6 testimonies of people that were there, written in Spanish. There is not a single testimony of an indigenous person that was there. There are all those testimonies are posterior.
Absolutely.
And there are, I don't know, one friar, Hernán Cortés, Bernal Díaz del Castillo, that is the best of all, because he was a fantastic writer. And then a couple of compadres of Hernán Cortés that wrote testimonies to help him when he was brought in chains to Spain to be judged for human rights, and for being a thief. It's the truth. So in all these testimonies, if you like check all of it, everybody speaks about more or less the same things. So in different ways, but everybody speaks about the arrival, then the meeting with Moctezuma, then the visit to the temple that everybody says that is the main temple of Mexico City, but Bernal Díaz del Castillo says, no, it was Tlatelolco, it was not Mexico City. They would have never let us into the temple in Mexico City. And the visit to the market of Tlatelolco, all Mexican literature comes from that visit to the market, and that's it, which is 4 days. There are 8 months, the Spaniards are 8 months in Mexico City, and all the testimonies we have are for the first 4 days. So who knows what happened there?
Yeah.
No, it's still
Yeah.
mysterious. No? Certainly, all the enormous army of indigenous nations that hated the Mexica, that arrived with Cortés, left, I suppose, that after a week, no? Forget about 8 months. No? So there was another kind of negotiation going on there, no? That we will never know about. After those 8 months, the Mexicas get sick of Hernán Cortés and kick him out, defeat him, take the treasure, and he has to run. And when he is on the run and still doesn't know if the Tlaxcalteca people will support him again, that he writes the letter to the second letter to the king, that is the most famous text, in which he is saying, "I'm sorry, I have not written to you before, but I was sick." It's like an email, no? And he's sorry, I have COVID. And you write 6 months later. No, in this case, it was 8 months. No?
Yeah.
And he writes this second letter, defeated. Still not, he was going to win the war, but in that moment he was completely defeated, and he's selling the Mexican culture to the king, so he sends troops. So it's not even propaganda. No, it's like a student's note.
Yes.
No, my grandmother is sick. I have to go to Connecticut.
Yes. You know, I know that you have done this because I think you mention it in your acknowledgments in this book, the extraordinary dig that is going on under Mexico City. The Leonardo Lopez Luján, who is running this. If you have a chance to go see the work that is being done to dig out the real temple of Tenochtitlan under what is now the cathedral in the center of Mexico City. It is amazing because it is for me, the experience was, it was the first time I was actually feeling something from the indigenous past. It was the first voice. I mean, what they're digging, and they're seeing the pits of the.
You have seen it.
I have.
So
yeah, it's amazing. The pits
so
of the contributions that people would bring in the act of worship, in the adoratorium, really, of Moctezuma. And they are bringing things that we are now, the plants that don't even exist anymore, and animals that are being sacrificed that we've never seen before. And it's almost as if the past is speaking for the first time for me, apart from the art, of course, that you see in the museums. But this was so real and so vivid, and the bones and the leaves and the plants and all of that. You are so right to write this book, which is, in turns, the voice of the voices of the Mexica and the Colua and at the same time, what you call or were they called this? The Castilleteca? From the Castile?
Yes, yes,
the
from
Castilleteca. I love that. That can't be true, right? Nobody was calling them the Castilleteca.
That comes from Matthew Restel. We're standing always in the shoulders of people better than us. No, it's so impressive. No, I don't know how aware of the main temple of Mexico has been digged for a long time, and everybody that has gone to Mexico City has seen it. But what they are doing now is that they dig under the buildings. No, they began under the cathedral because the cathedral was like siding. I don't know how to say pandean. No? So they had to do an enormous engineering thing to rise here up so it doesn't fall down. Yeah. Not the cathedral, but the temple of El Sagario that is next to it. It was about to come. No? So when they began to dig there, they discovered, and it was under Luján in that moment, who is the son of López Austin, to whom we owe so much as a theoretical mind that has been thinking the problem of Mexica culture or who thought about it for years. But then they began to dig first under El Sagario, and then under all the 18th century houses that are just there in República de Guatemala, and this is like really local information, and Donceles, that are the streets that if you were a Mexico City person, where you went to buy used books.
Mm-hmm. Right,
no,
right.
It's still the best used bookstores are there. So I can tell a story.
Please.
Please. I'm finishing the novel, and I am in Chihuahua with the Apache novel, precisely, and I'm talking to this archaeologist. She's working in Casas Grandes, and she tells me, you gotta go, you're going to Mexico City after this, and you're writing about Tenochtitlan. And I said, yes. And she says, you have to talk to Raúl Barrera. He has the keys of Tenochtitlan. And I was like the keys? Yeah, he has the keys of Tenochtitlan. So it was a summer, so we arrived to Mexico City, and I am with this telephone, Raúl Barrera. By then I have Googled him, and he is occupying now the place of Luján. So he is the director of archaeology of Mexico City right now, which is a lot. It was Matos Moctezuma, then Luján, now it's him. So I write to him or send a message or something, and he completely ignores me, of course.
Of course.
This was the summer of 2021. The 500 years of the fall of Tenochtitlan were about to happen. That happened in August. So he had a lot of work. He was every day like working with presidents of countries that were visiting the places. He didn't put any attention to it. So when we were about to return, we returned after the 500 years, the next day after the 500 years. I sent him desperately an email saying, this is the novel that I'm writing. Well, maybe 2 weeks, 3, I don't know. This is the novel I'm about to publish. It's already done, but I would like to go see because I have heard that there are new discoveries. And of course, he ignores me. And when we are 2 days before returning and 1 day before the 500 years, my telephone rings and says, I'm Raúl Barrera, you have everything wrong. You need to see it. You need to see it. And now everybody's gone. Now people they don't care anymore. They are in the political things. Yeah. So now you can come. So he tells me, I'll see you in the metro, in Metro Zócalo in downtown Mexico City, and I will take you to Tenochtitlan. And I was like, he has a ticket for the train of the past.
Oh my God, yeah, wow.
Take me to Shakespeare.
Back to the future.
Take me to Cervantes, whatever. So I arrive, and there is this normal guy who is very clearly an archaeologist waiting for us. I was with him, and he just said, come. And I will show you what no one else has seen yet, not even the presidents. No? So we arrive at one of these buildings in the street of Guatemala, and it's just a building, and there is a door. And he begins to do, and says, shit, I don't have the keys. So he calls someone. He said something worse than that. It sounded rude, but it was more. He calls someone, and he says, do you have the keys of Tenochtitlan? Bring them. I have friends here. So this young archaeologist appears with a ring of keys, with like, I don't know, 75 keys. He arrives, and they both begin to open the door until they get it. It was like, I mean, I were like the keys of Tenochtitlan. No? They actually exist. No? And he opens one of the doors, no? And we go down under one of these palaces, and they have put these like iron structures, like the ones where the books are here exactly, that sustain the old buildings, and they are digging under there. So you saw it, no?
Yes,
You've seen
yes.
the base of the colonial houses, and then Tenochtitlan, as it was the day in which they covered it. No, it's like it's unbelievable. No, and you can walk through it. It's very impressive.
Yeah,
no?
yeah.
Because and he was right. I had everything wrong. No, the buildings are placed in different places, no? So it was another 6 months of rewriting, no? The walk of Jazmín Caldera through the temple citadel. That had to be rewritten completely because we had a different idea of how it looked, and where the things were placed.
Yeah. So now I want to ask you the Holy Grail question. The Holy Grail question, because it's asking...
I have a mechanic that doesn't take your money and fixes your car. That's the true Holy Grail in New York. A good mechanic.
Now, I want to ask you how you put yourself into the heads of these characters of Moctezuma, who is so human in this book, so human, what do I want to say? He has such an extraordinary personality that I've never seen represented in any novel about and there have been many about the indigenous or Native Americans, but a character that is so believable, and the mayor of Tenochtitlan, who is Tlopotonki, is that his name? Tlopotonki, yeah. Who is the essential bureaucrat, the unbelievable sort of dedication, so dedicated that he knows that he's going to finish. He's going to retire from his job. He's going to be retired from his job, and of course, what that means in Tenochtitlan is you get killed in the process. How did you get into the minds of these characters? I mean, this is the Holy Grail for me. Question.
I don't know if I get into the minds of them, but I, of course, through research, not to crazy amounts of research. I think that I read every book that was ever written about Moctezuma. No, but more than anything, I think it's political anger, with how Moctezuma has been portrayed, and this way of seeing the indigenous population of Mexico like the owners of an esoteric knowledge that we lost forever, that is more connected with the UFOs than with true humanity. So the effort was to show them as what I think that they were, that was incredibly dexterous politicians, politicians that were trying to sustain an empire that was falling in pieces. The political context in which the novel happens is real. Moctezuma, that had been the most efficient and best of all emperors. He had won more territory than anyone, and had been... he was an extraordinary general and a very capable man, had taken a few really bad decisions when the Spaniards were about to arrive. He had overextended his power and anger the base of the empire. So when the Spaniards arrived, the empire is really coming down to pieces. If it didn't happen in 1521, it would have happened in 22 or 23, because Moctezuma had lost the control of the empire. But is that there is this we see that past as through the lens of that esoterical religious imagination when it was like a very practical past. Right. I think in the Popol Vuh that everybody read, I think everybody has read, these Quiché book that was rescued in the 17th century, and it's in Chicago, and there is an excellent translation into English. It's weird because it's coded, you know? But if you read it rightly, it's not an esoteric book. It's a manual about when to plant, you know, when Venus is where, you should be doing that. You know, when the sun comes in this part of the city, you should be doing that. And it's just told in a different key than ours. No? The people of Mesoamerica were very practical people, you know, and people that was very aware of the environment and how fragile it was. So it was this anger with the misrepresentations of a culture that just let me play with it. No? Let's suppose that they are regular politicians.
Yeah.
You know, that they are trying to survive as all politicians do. No? And let's portray Moctezuma as he really was. No? Not a superstitious man, not a coward man, just a guy dealing with enormous problems.
Right.
No? Of course, there is the element of desire always in literature. No? I always wanted Moctezuma to win. I always.
Yes,
it's a Mexican thing. No, the wound is open.
The
wound is still open.
He should have won. Yes, but you also have a razor wit, Alvaro. I was laughing out loud in certain portions of the book. I mean, when you describe it as you just have, that it came out of anger. It sounds like a very serious book, but believe me, this is a very entertaining, very funny book in many ways. Okay, I have questions from the audience.
It's a comedy. No?
Yeah, it is.
Moctezuma is up all the time.
Okay, so here are the questions from the audience. I enjoyed the character of La Malinche, Malinali, also her name. Can you describe her place in history? Thank you for asking this question. This is a question I should have asked too. You did it for me. Can you describe her place in history in relation to her character in the book?
It's a movable place, I think. So. I think the truth is that we don't have anything about her. No? We have what the Spaniards said about them. We have what the indigenous writers told later about her.
She was the translator, let's
She was
clarify.
the translator.
She was the translator
Yes.
of Cortés.
And there is the oldest wall in Mexico City, not considering the walls of Tenochtitlan. It's a wall of her house in Coyoacán, where the National School of Theater is. One of the walls is or so is said. I don't know if it's real, but I don't want to know if it's not true. No? Always go and touch it. No? She was the translator of Hernán Cortés, and more than anything, I think the political operator of Hernán Cortés, no?
And his lover as well.
And his lover, of course, the mother of what is being called the first Mexican, whatever that means, Martín Cortés. No? But he was the first kid that was baptized no, in Coyoacán, in La Conchita, in my neighborhood. But the thing is, if you put a line of the life of Cortés, he's like an incredibly mediocre little person. And then he meets Malinche, and he rises, goes, and then when he dismisses her, he drops and goes to jail. No, he never went to jail. He won. He didn't won, but he had very good dilatory methods that may sound familiar to you. No, there are politicians that can survive to a lot of indictments. So she was clearly a very brilliant diplomat and politician. She had been a princess who spoke Nahua, and then she had been a slave in a Maya court of the King Tabasco. So she spoke Nahua and Maya. And with the Spaniards, there was a soldier that had been a slave, a priest, Aguilar, who had been a slave in what today is Acumal. Well, it was Acumal then. It's the same name.
Remarkably convenient find in the middle of a place that you think you're discovering, to find a priest who speaks the language.
And he speaks Spanish and Maya, right?
Who was
he's in
shipwrecked.
Acumal near Cancun.
Yeah. Happened to be shipwrecked, and
so they are, yes, the good look of Hernán Cortés is very impressive. No? So they couldn't translate one after the other. No, an Agua person would speak, and Malitzin would translate from Maya to. No, from Nahua to Maya, and then Aguilar from Maya to Spanish. No, so they could do that connection.
Yeah.
It's a figure that well everybody knows. No, there is a word in Spanish. It's like the worst adjective that there is. That is malinchista. No? That is a person that sells their own people in the later years to the American power.
Yeah.
And before that to the Spanish power to the truth is that in the later years that posture has changed a lot. No, first of all, because there was not the manos, no, the words for European, for the word for us. One of whose first written testimonies by fact is here in the Nican Mopua, the poem about the Virgin of the apparition of the Virgin of Guadalupe. The word that says American people from the Americas, indigenous people, whatever, appears way later, not 20 or 25 years later, after the death of Malinali. No, so she was not like helping the Europeans. No one thought that the Europeans would win. They were 200 clowns.
Yeah,
no,
they
were
killed
pink.
Them
they smelled. They were like no one waited that. And by other hand, if you see the indigenous chronicles, you can like incredibly clearly see that the indigenous people talks to her, not to him.
Not to him.
No one talks to Hernán Cortés. It's her the figure of power.
So you make him El Malinche.
Well, that's Bernal Díaz del Castillo says that they would call him El Malinche because he was the companion of Malinali. No, the main character was Malinali.
Yeah.
And I don't know how real is that, but I don't see why Bernal Díaz del Castillo would lie. In the indigenous chronicles, they call him El Capitán, the captain, and they call her Malinali by her name. So I think that the later generations have been making a recovery of this key figure as what I suppose that she really was, that is an incredibly dexterous politician, that she was a slave, she could be a princess again, she did what we all could do, no, fought the fight for her children. No, that's what we all do all the time. So, but again, and as usual, is not my idea. No, there has been a lot of women that have been writing about her and trying to resuscitate her image.
Yes.
That I think that by now is a general thing in Mexico.
Absolutely.
I don't think that people call someone malinchista anymore. No, there has been a change in her figure.
I think so. So here's another question, and it's one that I'm very curious. Thank you for asking this question. And the question is, what's up with the tomatoes? I can't find anything on Gringo Google. So yeah, he gets high on tomatoes as well.
There is, Shakespeare thought that tomatoes were poisonous. And all the people around him thought the same thing. The British used it to think that they didn't eat tomato in the beginning because they thought that you could get high.
There are a lot of gastroenterologists who think the same thing.
Well, chocolate gets you a little bit high, no? Also, there are many things that chili, of course, no, produce like a chemical change in your brain. That so I suppose that it was something like that, but it's a poetic license. I don't think that. I don't know if there were hallucinogenous tomatoes, but I needed the Spaniards to be slowly getting high during the whole novel. You can see it as a very serious novel, or you can see it like an enormous psychedelic trip in which a bunch of people that will change the history is just on drugs.
Well, they'd never tasted tomatoes before,
the Spaniards could not be doing mushrooms because by them they would know.
Yeah.
And Cortés had clearly forbid they could not drink or have. They could not get relaxed until they knew what was going to happen. So in order for the novel to work, and the palace scenes seemed to work. They needed to be a little bit high, so I took a little.
So it's a little bit.
It's a very small
I know you by
poetic
now.
license.
It's a little bit like Anne Boleyn's tennis ball.
It's exactly the same thing. Yes,
Nobody
it's a
go
lie.
looking for the magic in the tomatoes because.
But it's a
not.
literary lie.
Yes,
no?
yes, you can do that.
And
You
and
can
I
do
can
that, yeah.
invoke Shakespeare.
Okay. ¿Qué tan diferente es la versión del inglés al español? What is the difference between the English and the English translation and the Spanish? It's Natasha Wimmer,
It's
who is
Natasha
fantastic.
Wimmer, so you can trust every word that there is in the book. And the great difference is that it's longer in English. There are episodes.
Por favor, responde en español.
Ah,
por
perdón.
favor.
Hay episodios en inglés que no están en español porque tuve tiempo de pensar en la novela y agregar algunas cosas. Because I have the smartest editor on earth, that is Laura Preciasepe, and she was like, we're missing this, and now we're missing that. So the novel they are always longer in English. No, Sudden Death is longer in English than in Spanish also. And in this case, there are a few scenes that were added, a few things that I was not aware of when it came out in Spanish, and I was able to add in English.
So hay esa diferencia para la persona que
There is
preguntó.
Natasha, in Sudden Death, I wrote the new parts in English, and Natasha told me that I rather translate from your Spanish to English than from your English to English. No, so I wrote them in
That's
Spanish
funny.
this time.
That's funny.
But Natasha is
No,
just
she's a
it's
supreme
to
being,
work
absolutely.
with her, to see her produce the original in English is just unbelievable.
Yeah.
You know, she's an amazing translator, and I always say it, and I will repeat it. When we are at the end of the editing process that is so complicated, or in the two books I have done with Natasha, I am not aware if I am speaking about my book or her book. No, she's just
She's an artist.
amazing. She's an
Absolutely,
artist.
yes.
Es un verso de Calderón. It's a verse of Calderón de la Barca. Is
The
tu
title?
sueño, tu sueño imperios han sido. It's a
Which
verse
is beautiful
from La
in
Vida es
Spanish.
Sueño. It's a
It's
very
beautiful.
nice.
Yeah,
Well,
it's a
it's
very
an
nice.
amazing.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
17th century in Spanish
Yes,
is
in
just
Spanish it's
unbeatable,
magical,
no,
absolutely.
unbeatable.
So another question, how much of the novel is based on historical facts? How much liberty did you take? Well, we've discussed that a little bit.
Yeah, a lot. Should I spoil it? No, I will
Yes,
not spoil
yes.
it. I will not spoil it. But the
You needed this library to write the book, probably.
yes.
Let's put it
So
that way.
the historical detail is as precise as I could. I know that there is people that knows more. Rafael Barrera, he's right now digging every little piece. Luján, there's a lot of people that knows much more about that. But I was as serious as I could, and it was years and years of reading. So the way in which the shoes are tied, the dressing of the people, the food they eat, all of the, how the interior of the palaces, we think it was, all of that is as precise as it could be. Historical, I don't know. No, there is this moment in which Moctezuma shakes his imperial butt,
Yes.
listening to a song of T-Rex.
Yes.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
It's fiction. It's 100%
It's
fiction.
It's fiction.
But in order for it to work, it had to be as precise in the
Yes.
historical detail
Yeah.
as I could.
Alvaro, it is a joy to read this book, and I can't wait to read it again. It's as it is with every one of the books that you've written. I have to give a shout out to Riverhead, which has had the wisdom to publish these last two books of yours, Sudden Death and now You Dreamed of Empires. And thank you so much. I want to tell you that Alvaro is going to sign right here, somewhere around here on the stage, your books. And please give him a huge, huge hand for this book.
Thank you. Muchas gracias, María, de verdad. Thank you. Thank you.